Hi everybody, this is Bob with part 2 of my video series on chord progressions for songwriters. Now in part 1 we covered some basic theory and the circle of fifths. So if you haven't done so already, make sure you check out part 1 as we are going to be building on that knowledge. Now in this video I want to talk about chord progressions in a major key. You remember in the last video we defined notes in a given key and we assigned them a number based on their scale degree. And I told you that each note in that scale had an associated chord. Now chord construction is not what this video is all about, but we need to cover some basics so you can understand why some chords work better than others in your key. So let's go back to the circle of fifths and take a look at some basic chord construction. Then we'll come back to the guitar and see what we can come up with. Here we have our grid representing the circle of fifths we created in part 1. Now if I want to create a 3-note chord, a triad, in a given key, I just start with the root note and skip every other note in that key until I've played 3 notes. For example, if I want to play a C chord, I play C, skip the D, play E, skip the F, and play G. And there you have your triad. Now this is a C major chord. So we could say a major chord is made up of the 1, the 3, and the 5 in a major scale. Now we can do this with every chord in any key. All we have to do is play every other note in the scale. Let's take a look at this on the keyboard. For example, in the key of C, I want to play a C chord. I start with C, skip D, play E, skip F, play G, every other note. If I want to play the next chord in the scale, that's D. I do the same thing, skip every other note. And so on and so forth. Just played every chord in the key of C major. However, not every chord is a major chord because of our half-step relationship. Some chords are minor. Remember in part 1, I said there's only 2 places that you will find a half-step in our major scale, and that's between the 3rd and the 4th degree and the 7th and the 8th degree. Now because of this half-step relationship, we will find, for example, when we play our C major chord, you see that this interval right here is a major third. But when I go to D, for example, you'll see that this 3rd interval is a minor interval. That's because of how many half steps we have. So the C major chord had 1, 2, 3, 4 half steps in between the 1st and the 3rd. This D minor only has 1, 2, 3. And that means this D minor has a flatted 3rd. Now we'll talk more about minor chords in another video, but I just want to touch on it briefly. When we talk about chord construction, we have to compare the chord to its major counterpart. Take D major chord, for example. The 3rd has an F sharp that's not in the key of C. This F sharp has to be flatted. That's called a flatted 3rd, making this chord minor. The same thing happens with the E chord. It has a G sharp in it. So we have to flatten that 3rd, and that makes that chord E minor. And the other chord in our scale is A minor. So those are our 3 minor chords in the key of C. But a better way to refer to this is the 2, 3, and 6 chord are minor. And conversely, the 1, 4, and 5 chords are major. And that's true in any key. So what chords are available to us? There are 8 notes in the scale. But the 8th note is the same as this note, so we really have 7 chords available to us then. Now I'll play them on the keyboard, and we'll refer to them now using their number as it relates to the scale degree. And you'll find this numbering system to be handy as it can be transposed to any key. The 1 chord, it's major. 2 is minor. 3 is minor. 4 is major. The 5 chord is major. 6 is minor. 7 is diminished. And then we're back to the 1. Now I've played every possible triad in the key of C. Now the 7th chord is a diminished chord. Now what that means is that the 3rd and the 5th are flatted, and it's a rather unstable chord. You're not going to find much use for that chord right now, so we're just going to skip that one. So that only leaves us with 6 usable chords in your given key. Now those chords are either major or minor. Now notice that the 1, 4, and 5 are major chords. 1, 4, 5, major chords. 2, 3, 6, minor chords. So you want to remember that. 1, 4, 5, major chords. 2, 3, 6, minor chords. Now let's go back to my grid. Now I've taken the liberty to put Roman numerals to indicate the scale degree and whether the chord is major or minor. So the Roman numeral 1 for the tonic chord is major, 4 and 5 are major, indicated by the capital letters, and then the lowercase 2, 3, and 6 are minor chords, and then the 7th chord, which we said we're not going to use right now, is a diminished chord indicated by the little degree symbol. Now this is a common practice for notating chords. So now let's get back to the guitar with this knowledge and see if we can create some chord progressions. So now that we know what chords are available to us, where do we start? Well, just as soon as I give you some rules, we're going to find reasons to break them. So let's just say for the rest of this video that this is just a framework for you to get started. Then it's up to you to get creative and then work outside of the box. Now I've decided that I'm going to play the guitar in the key of G. Now I'm not looking at my grid, so how do I know what chords to play? Well, let's just spell the scale in G until we come up with our 6 chords. So G is 1, right? That's my tonic. And then A, B, C, D, and then E. There's my 6 chords. And just remember, the 1, the 4, and the 5 are major, and the 2, 3, 6 are minor. So how do I put all this together? Well, most songs start out on the 1 chord, right? The tonic. And they end on the 1 chord, the tonic. Again, no hard and fast rules here, but let's start there and then play the 5 chord before going back to the 1. So, what, you already forgot the 5? Okay, real easy. G is 1, A, B, C, D. Why the 5 chord? Well, it's the chord that creates tension. And we're going to refer to it as the dominant chord. And it wants to resolve to its tonic. The dominant chord does that so well because it has that 7th note in the scale or the leading tone that wants to resolve to the tonic. Now that's the half step that we've discussed before between the 7th and the 8th degree. Now listen to what your ears are telling you if I play the G scale up to the 7th degree. All right, check this out. What's the next note? You can hear it, right? That's where it wants to go. So that's that D chord. There's that leading tone. So that's what's key about the 5 chord. It has that leading tone in it that wants to resolve to the 1. So in the key of G, so you see how that 5, that dominant 5 chord, wants to resolve to the 1. So the half steps in our scale is how we build tension and then how we release it. So let's start off our chord progression with a 1-4-5. Now remember, the 1, the 4, and the 5 are major chords, very happy sounding. And I want you to notice how the tension is built when I get to the 5 chord, and then how it's resolved, or that tension is released, when I get back to the 1. So here it is, 1-4-5. So that's a very powerful move, that dominant 5 chord back to the 1. How many songs have been written on that 1-4-5? Actually, hit songs been written on the 1-4-5 progression. Millions. So you could spend the rest of your life writing songs with variations of those 3 chords. So how do we fit the minor chords, the 2, the 3, and the 6, into this progression? Well, one very popular way is to use the 2 chord to precede the 5. So I'm going to do the same 1-4-5 progression, but this time I'm going to add the 2 chord. Oh, I forgot what that is. Okay, G, A is number 2. Okay, so 2 is minor, right? So I'm going to add that 2 chord before the dominant 5, so it's going to be 1-4-2-5. Let's check that out. See how nice that one works. Now the 6 chord can be used to replace the 4. Why is that? Well, it shares 2 of the 3 notes in the triad. So if I go, instead of 1-4-2-5, how about 1-6-2-5? So I'll use that 6 to replace the 4. Check this out. How about if I oscillate between the 1-6? So check this out. You see, I could almost stay there all day long, just building a verse or whatever. And then when I want to get out of that, let's just go to 4-5. Let's try that. The 6 chord can work well as a replacement for the 1. Why? Because they share 2 of the 3 notes in the triad. So what if I play 1-4-2-5, that progression, but instead of going 2-5-1, how about if I go 2-5-6? So put the 6 in the place of 1. So let's check that out. Now, once I get to that 6, another nice thing to do is to oscillate between the 6 and the 3. And then maybe I'd finish that off with a 2-5-1. So let's try that. So what about that 3 chord? It shares 2 of the 3 notes in the tonic and the dominant 5 chord. So let's use it as a substitute for the 1 and just do that temporarily. Let's try that in the, I'll do 1, 4, 2, 5, 3, 5, 1. Wow, I'm using 5 of the chords there. How about a chord progression with all 6 chords? Let's try 1, 4, 3, 6, 2, 5, 1. Check it out. Now I could go on for hours playing these 6 chords. There's lots of options here, but I'll leave that up to you. One thing that I do want to leave you with is the concept of tonality. What key am I playing in if I play an E chord? Think about that. What key is that? Well, if your answer is, I don't know, then that's correct, because I don't know either. I haven't defined the tonal center just by playing the E chord. It could be the 1 in the key of E, it could be the 4 in the key of B, it could be the 5 in the key of A. However, if I play this, now by playing the 1, the 4, and the 5, and with that tension in that 5 chord, I've established the tonality of E. So the relationship to other chords is what really establishes tonality. Now that's going to lead us into our next video, where we will embellish these chords, and that will help us to establish tonality and to get us into secondary dominance. Now this will open up a whole new palette of chords, which in turn will open up a whole bunch of creative melodic ideas for you. So stay tuned for that. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Please comment and subscribe, and give me a thumbs up if you liked the video, and I'll see you in the next one.